aśūnyamidam sarvam udayo nāsti vyayaḥ caturṇām ārya-satyānām abhāvas prasajyate.
Yady aśūnyam idaṃ sarvam udayo nāsti vyayaḥ caturṇām ārya-satyānām abhāvas prasajyate. MMK chapter 24 verse 20. If all this is not empty, there is neither origination nor passing. The non-existence follows for you of the Four Noble Truths. So this verse is exactly the same as the opening verse of the chapter, except in the first verse it begins yady aśūnyam, if empty, and this says aśūnyam, if not empty. So the number of syllables is exactly the same, because yady aśūnyam, the second syllable is d, and in this verse aśūnyam, the second syllable is dya or ya. So that's one of the characteristics of Sanskrit. The words flow together like that. So the negative a doesn't change the number of syllables. Apart from that, the wording is exactly the same as the first verse. So the first verse says, if all this is empty, there is neither origination nor passing. The non-existence follows for you of the Four Noble Truths. So that's the opponent. The opponent's view is that if everything is empty, then, in other words, real things don't arise and pass, don't originate and pass, then how can suffering, for example, really exist? And if suffering doesn't exist, its cause and the destruction of its cause and the path of destroying the cause of suffering can't exist. So there's the Zen realists' viewpoint of the Four Noble Truths, that each truth is describing some non-empty real thing: suffering, a cause of suffering, the destruction of the cause of suffering, and a concrete, real path, wearing the robe, sitting, keeping your spine straight vertically, receiving a bowl, getting a certificate of transmission. It's all thinking in terms of things that can be got. Okay, so here is Nagarjuna's rebuttal of that way of thinking. Yady aśūnyam idaṃ sarvam udayo nāsti vyayaḥ. So udayo means going up, arising, originating. Vyayaḥ means passing. So asti means there is, and nāsti means there isn't. There are two nas, na asti and na. So there is neither udayo, origination, nor passing, vyayaḥ. Yady, if, aśūnyam. So you have to listen carefully for the negative, because in yady aśūnyam, the a is a light syllable. The strong syllables is shun. Yady aśūnyam. So you want to emphasize in English, we'd say yady aśūnyam, if all this is not empty. But I would instinctively like to read it like that, but Sanskrit is not allowed to be read like that. You have to recognize what's long and what's short. And for that, we're very grateful to have the recitation of Professor Kashinath Nyāupane. So I would call him Nyāupane if I don't concentrate, because that's the English, Nyāupane, but it's Nyāupane in Sanskrit. The a is long. So the best way of getting used to that is just don't listen to me, listen to the recitation on bodhisvara.com and just parrot that until it starts to become more natural. Yady aśūnyam idaṃ sarvam udayo nāsti vyayaḥ. If all this is not empty, there is neither origination nor passing. Idaṃ, sarvam means all this. Neuter, nominative, neuter, singular. Idaṃ, this, sarvam, all. Caturṇām ārya-satyānām abhāvas te prasajyate. Prasajyate, it follows. Te, genitive singular of tavam, for you, in your scheme. Abhāvah, the non-existence. Before te, the abhāvah goes to abhāvaste. Abhāvaste. So, abhāvaste prasajyate, the non-existence follows for you. And then we're looking for a genitive compound, and the genitive compound is ārya-satyānām, genitive plural, of the noble truths. Arya, Aryan, noble, satya, truth. And caturṇām, genitive plural of catur, four. So caturṇām ārya-satyānām, of the four noble truths. Abhāvas te prasajyate, the non-existence follows for you of the four noble truths. So what Nagarjuna is saying is that if in Carlo Rovelli's terms this world was composed of stones, not happenings, not empty dharmas, but things set in stone like stones, then those stones will be there for keeps. A self-existing stone is not subject to change. So just as like if an oxygen atom is immutable, then there's no origination of water, no passing of water. So because suffering is empty, suffering is real. Suffering is empty doesn't mean that suffering is not real. It means it's not independently arisen. Non-empty suffering would be independently arisen suffering. It will be suffering that's just there, svabhavat, derived from its own self-existence. And such kind of suffering would be impossible to be free of, because something that's self-existing is not susceptible to change. So the fact that suffering is empty doesn't mean it's not real. It means it's dependently arisen out of ignorance, karma formations, divided consciousness, psychophysicality. Out of psychophysicality there are 6 sense organs and therefore contact. Out of contact there's feeling, thirsting. From thirsting there's attachment or clinging. From clinging there's becoming. And then birth or rebirth. And following rebirth you've got all kinds of suffering associated with aging and death. So suffering, that's what the Buddha realised about suffering. The suffering that he was hoping to get rid of, he realised was not a thing that he could destroy. It was a dependently arisen dharma. So in that case, he could practice inhibition in Alexander terms. He could practice stopping. He could practice stopping. That doesn't mean there is a thing to be stopped. It just means stopping. So the person who taught me more than anything about stopping was the Alexander teacher Marjory Barlow. So for example, I'm going to do a gasho. Okay, I've given myself a stimulus to do something, put my hands together and bow. So Marjory would say to me, I want you to put your hands together and bow. Actually, she didn't say that. She said, I want you to move your leg, but I'm adapting it. So let's say Marjorie's sitting to one side there, as she sometimes did, sitting on a chair. She got old. not using her hands, but just putting a chair there and sitting beside me as I lay on her teaching table. And then she would say, Mike, I want you to lift up your right leg and stretch the leg out and put it down on the table. And I knew that my job was to say no. And what I was saying no to was not the stimulus. We can't go through life saying no to stimuli. What I'm saying no to is my idea of doing something. And before that, my job is to say no to the idea of being right. Okay, this is so liberating teaching for me, having been sort of I was led to believe in my 20s that my job was to be the successor of Nishigudo Nishijima Sensei. So that really cramped my style enormously, which may have been not entirely a bad thing, since I was rather wild in my late teens and early 20s. But it was like I was as if tied to the tethering post of trying to be right, of trying to live up to the expectations that my teacher had for me, of being the greatest, the most excellent teacher in the world. That was the bar which he set for me. He said that if I could transcend family life, he expected that if I could transcend family life, that means hack celibacy. His expectation was that I would be the most excellent Buddhist master in the world. Well, he didn't know me very well, because there wasn't a cat in hell's chance of me going through my 20s and 30s celibate. But in my ignorance, I had that big stimulus, and I didn't know how to say no to my reaction to it. Well, Marjory Barlow taught me. So here goes. Put your hands together and bow. And my job is to say no. The first thing I have to say no to is wanting to please the teacher. Because if I've got any desire to please the teacher, I'll be, you jump to it. Sort of as you're expected to in Japanese society, really. You're following a teacher, But so first thing you say is no. No, I'm to hell with being right. I mean, fuck that for a game of cards. Look where that got me. It's a path to just being stuck and miserable. So no, fuck that. Fuck trying to be right. Okay, and then Marjory will be there saying, "Good, that's it." She knew what I was thinking after 60 years in Alexander work. She didn't need me to tell her what I was thinking. She could see it with her eagle eyes. So yeah, that's it. That's what you want. She's her first lesson. She'd say to her pupil, "I want you to be thoroughly disobedient." It's a total antidote to the way that the education system in Britain is going, where you've got to pass all these exams and get everything right. I want you to be thoroughly disobedient. First thing Marjory got her pupil to do in lesson 1 was say no. Say no. So the first thing you're saying no to is that end-gaining impulse to try to be right, to try to please the teacher, to try and be a good student, to be a worthy successor, all that bullshit. Then the second thing is say no to the idea of doing the action. So no, I'm completely going to give up the idea of putting my hands together and bowing. Because if I have the idea that I'm going to do it, it immediately sets in train all my old patterns of habitual reaction. That's what I want to be free of. It's not that I want to be free of stimuli, although to some extent I do want to be free of stimuli. That's why I'm here in this rather peaceful environment in France, where I tend to choose the stimuli that I'm dealing with, like building this greenhouse. I did that over the summer, and generally speaking, I enjoyed it very much because there was no pressure on me, so I could do it more as a meditation, if you like, as I wouldn't be able to do if I was working on a building site, for example. So again, Marjory would say, the thoughts. The pressure was off the stimulus and you start thinking about something else. Marjory would say, bring it back, and come on, move your leg. And then she would say, that's good, say no. Let the neck be free, to let the head go forward and up, to let the back lengthen and widen. Sending your knees up to the ceiling, Marjory would say, because I'd be lying on her teaching table, or couch as she called it, with my knees bent. So the direction for the knees was point your knees up to the ceiling, asking for a lengthening in the muscles of the lower back and the legs. So here I'd say, let the neck be free, to let the head go forward and up. Not head go forward and up. Marjorie hated that kind of garbling of the direction. It's forward, not back, forward and up. And up is against the pull of gravity. So it's forward and up. See, Marjorie used to say those directions again and again, always like she was hearing them for the first time. It relates to what Nagarjuna in the second chapter of MMK calls the now being visited. So now, this is something I realised in translating MMK, and it's a good thought. In Nagarjuna's teaching, now is always an adverb. Yeah, it's never a noun. So all this bullshit about the power of now, it's missing the point. If you conceive of the present moment as a thing you want to get into, you'll never do it, because now is an adverb. So I realised this in translating the word gamyamanam, which means the now being visited, or the being visited. That's what Nagarjuna is asking us to pay attention to, the now being visited. And it was the same thing with Marjorie. What she got me to attend to everything. While I was lying on her teaching table, I remember I heard the birds singing outside, and it was like I'd heard the bird song for the first time. And it wasn't that I came into the moment of the present. It was that the bird song was visiting me, and I was visiting the bird song now. So in that case, now is an adverb. And I understood that intuitively. So I had a pupil who was very much into this, being mindful of the now. And when my better moments, I just said to him spontaneously in the lesson, don't end gain to be present. Be present to your end gaining. Now that was just Marjorie's teaching. So be present to your end gaining. Marjorie says, Mike, move your leg. Mike, put your hands together and bow. So end gaining is the desire, the impulse to go directly for the end. So the antidote to that is just to be aware of it, to be present, to be visited by that end gaining impulse, and to visit that impulse. That's what Nagarjuna means by the now being visited. It's not coming into the moment of the present, because there's no moment of the present to come into. And again, this happens to relate to Carlo Ravelli's rather sort of astonishing conclusion that there's no such thing as time. That's exactly what the conclusion that Nagarjuna comes to at the end of Canto 14. So, the stimulus is to put the hands together and bow. And my job is to say no to the idea of being right. Marjorie would say, there ain't no such animal as being right. There is a right direction to go in, but it's not a thing like a being right. It's not a state of being. See, Marjorie, intuitively, she understood emptiness from her decades in the Alexander work, although she didn't have the explicit clarification of it that we've got here in Nagarjuna. So this is the inhibition. This is what in Alexander work is called inhibition. It's not. We want to call what inhibition of what? No. It's stopping. It's giving up an idea. There's no thing to be stopped. It's giving up. It's letting go. It's like nirvana. nirvana, the metaphor is the oil gets used up, so the lamp goes out. It's not a question of blowing out the lamp. You know, there's a flame you want to get rid of, so you blow it out. The metaphor is rather the oil is burning, and you let the oil burn out, then the flame goes out. So the point I'm making is that the third noble truth, the truth of cessation, corresponds to what Marjory Barlow taught me in the way of stopping. Give up the idea of being right. Give up the idea of doing the action in question. In this case, it's putting hands together and bowing. And give up the idea of doing the Alexander directions. So sometimes she would say, Mike, free your neck. Quite strong. Free your neck. So you think, oh, what does that mean? You know, and of course, it doesn't mean that you do something. Freeing your neck is freeing your neck from the idea of doing something. Let the head go forward and up. It's nothing you can do. Give up the idea, or say no, stop the idea that you've got to do something to let the head go forward and up. Let the back lengthen and widen. Say no to doing it. It's an undoing. You can make the back see, like this. You can lengthen and narrow, and you can widen the back by shortening the front and going down. But lengthening and widening, it's a function of letting the head go forward and up, and sending these forwards and away. It's nothing you can do. It's an undoing. Yady aśūnyam idaṃ sarvam udayo nāsti vyayaḥ caturṇām ārya-satyānām abhāvas prasajyate. If all this is not empty, there is neither origination nor passing. The non-existence follows for you of the Four Noble Truths.